All right, please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. The clerk will call the roll.
Mayor Elliott.
Here.
Mr. Thalman.
Here.
Mr. Sadler.
Here.
Ms. Ketchum.
Here.
Mr. Skwabanakis.
Present.
Mr. Thorngate.
Here.
Mr. Palmer. The quorum is present.
All righty, thank you. At this time, I'll ask for motion to accept the minutes as received.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And motion is passed. That brings us to the mayor's report. I don't have a much to really a report on tonight. I did want to commend, I see Melissa Adams here in the room, our homeless liaison. I really just wanted to commend her over the last year or so, a year plus in that position. She has really done a very careful and delicate job of building a consensus around the idea of a life hub here in the city of Wheeling. It seems during the time that I've been in office and the years preceding it, homelessness didn't get better but got worse each and every year. And it's an issue that unless we have, as a city, come up with a collective solution, I think it's safe to say it was going to continue to getting worse. And I really just want to commend Melissa. I know we're not there yet, but we've seen a lot of progress in this regard. And I know from talking to the different players in this, whose constituencies include the homeless, how many different philosophies and personalities there are. I know it's a tough job you have, but I really thank you for that. So just keep up the great work. Thank you. And I believe no appointments tonight, right?
Sure.
All right. That concludes my mayor's report. Brings us to the clerk's report.
We have a notice of application to operate a private club at the Osiris Shrine located at 91 Kruger Street. And that concludes the clerk's report.
Thank you. That brings us to number 2, unfinished business.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Wheeling amending and reenacting Article 169 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Wheeling entitled the Human Rights Commission.
Make a motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
There was a lot of people that signed up to speak.
Yes.
You want the motion so that they can speak now or wait till-
I was going to do that, but you're absolutely right. We should probably let folks in the audience speak first. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to exit the regular order of business and to allow public comment on number one under unfinished business.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. I'm assuming some people wrote Crown Act on here. Some folks wrote some other things. So if you intended to speak on this topic and I don't call your name, please let me know. But the first gentleman who signed up to speak on this topic is Daryl Clausell. Is he here? Yes, sir. Didn't see you, sir. All righty. If you would state your name and address, sir, you have 3 minutes.
Name's Daryl Clausell, 25 Claus Lane, Wheeling, West Virginia. Just wanted to take a moment and speak on the importance of what we call Crown Act. Utilizing it with that name, I just want you to know it's more than just words on a piece of paper, but more of a formal process to protect a certain class of people. Today, my understanding is that the Crown Act's up for passage. And I want you to know that 18 states have already done so, including Washington, D.C. and various jurisdictions in West Virginia. And it's important to understand when you talk about the Crown Act, don't make it singular. The Crown Act helps promote school belonging and engagement for all students, reduces disparities in school discipline, increases educational engagement and academic success, and protects students regardless of gender or gender identity. Remember this, in 2019, Crown Act was an amendment to what was called the Dignity for All Students Act, or DASA. By definition, what it did was just add the definition of race to include traits such as hair texture and protective hairstyles such as locks, braids, and twists. in order to protect students' access to their public education, regardless of how they choose to wear or style their hair. And when you look at DESA and the Crown Act, you know, what this does, if you pass this, it will make schools responsible for ensuring that the teaching staff and other school personnel are aware of it. School personnel would understand better the formal disciplinary action against students based on their natural hair texture and protective hairstyles. School personnel would understand, given their inherent position of authority over students, they are responsible for preventing racial discrimination and supporting all students' access to school and participation in activities, inclusion for opportunities inside and outside the classroom. This is what this is about. It's not just an acronym. It helps to promote school belonging and engagement for all students, reduces disparities, school discipline, and increases educational engagement because students understand each other. I don't see a time clock anywhere, and I keep looking up just to see where my 3 minutes are.
30 seconds.
So, you know, I just want you to realize that more than a decade of national research shows that the Crown Act shows that girls of color are more likely to be disciplined in school for how they wear their hair. Just remember that. That's research. And last but not least, I will say this, you know, because initially I came forth talking about it and mentioned that there was an incident in this area concerning exactly this. Well, now I know of a second one. And guess what? You know, this first one was in the middle schools. This next one's in one of the highest institutions of academia. And so realize it does exist. It's just nobody's going to come forth in a 94.6% majority minority and talk and say I've been, you know, discriminated against. So remember, I just wanted to stop it right there. And thank you, and hope that this goes well tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Alrighty. I think the next individual is Mr. John Gebhardt. Sir, if you would state your name and address, you also have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is John Gebhardt, 16 Arc Avenue, and I want to bring up Article 169. It also affects businesses. If I owned 2 corporations at one time, and I had a lot of bad employees, and I believe that if somebody comes in smelling like they climbed out of the dumpster, you should be able to tell them to go home. If an employee has facial piercings and look unprofessional, they should be told to remove them. If there's a lot of vulgar language, that's probably an employee you wouldn't want. Unwanted phone use, always playing with their phones, unwilling to wear a uniform and keep it clean, unshaven and crappy haircuts like mine. Employers should have the right to terminate those employees that don't abide by their policies. This article provides grounds for frivolous lawsuits against the business in Wheeling. This article should be voted down. My second topic is the homestead taxes. We have uncontrolled inflation right now, and there's a lot of elderly people out there that's not going to be able to pay their taxes, and I don't want the city taking their houses off of them. What we should do is put a mechanic's lien against their property without penalties. And when they get money, they should be able to come back and pay off that mechanic lien. If the city would be so kind to try to vote that in, that would be wonderful. And thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you, sir. Alrighty. The next speaker on this topic, I believe, is Miss Julia Chaplin. If you also would state your name and address, ma'am, you have 3 minutes.
Julia Chaplin, 23 Fieldcrest Avenue, Wheeling, West Virginia. I understand that Mr. Pozell was saying that there's 2 people that had this happen to them here in Wheeling. I'm aghast at it because I didn't hear any news coverage on it, media coverage, anything in the school board meetings. And I would think that something that drastic would be publicized throughout the city. But maybe our news media didn't cover it. But that's their fault, not ours. This is why I am opposed to passing the amendment and reenacting Article 169 Human Rights Commission. When a business or organization wants to hire or fire a person, if that person falls under this regulation, they can use it as a legal excuse, regardless of whether the accusation was valid or not, thus overloading our already burdened legal system with frivolous lawsuits. Businesses and organizations will have the option to 1, hire an unqualified person, 2, keep on an productive employee or hire an attorney to defend the company's position. Then the people that you are making these regulations for may in the future never get another job interview or even a job because local businesses will start reviewing applicants' social media before even initiating interviews. Or the business will just move out of Wheeling. That's another option that they have. Knowing that our mayor and city council are made up of 2 attorneys and 5 businessmen, I'm astonished that with your combined business experience, that you have not come to the conclusion that implementing this amendment will be disastrous for our city of Wheeling in attracting businesses. Thank you.
I thank you. All right. Before we get to our last speaker, I wasn't sure what Ms. Downing, was this a topic you wanted to speak about?
Oh, no.
Not this topic. Okay, I just couldn't tell from what you wrote down. Okay. So the last speaker on this topic is Senator Owens Brown. Is he in the room? Yes, he is. All right. If you, sir, I could also state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Owens Brown, 20 Stackyard Road, Wheeling, West Virginia. Before I start, I want to read something. And the sign said, "Long-haired freaky people do not apply." So I tucked my hair under my hat and went in and asked him why. He said, "You look like a fine young man. I think you'll do." So I took off my hat and said, "Imagine that, me working for you." This was written in 1971 by a group called Electra, talking about people and conformity. You know, here's a picture of Einstein. You see his hair? Understand what I'm saying? This man couldn't have been hired by this particular individual. You know, a lot of times, I see a shaved head white person, white guy, and I always think he was a skinhead. But no, he wasn't a skinhead. He just didn't want to use that there comb over. So he shaved off all his hair. See, the issue of black women's hair in the workplace has been going on for many years. Even in the 1970s, there were some cases out there about that, went to court, and the women won because they were denied employment because they were wearing the braids or cornrows. But you see how fickle society is. In 1979, there's a movie called 10 with Bo Derek. And she donned cornrows. And she became a symbol of white beauty. This tells you how arbitrary that people can be. See, the Crown Act is about preventing the abuse of power of one individual over another. In most cases, about men in position of power imposing their will upon an individual that may look different than themselves. The reason that I say men are the culprit in the abuse of power is that many women of all races are very comfortable in exploring ways to change their looks. Just a few years ago, it was rare to see a woman with blue metallic colored hair or pink or any other various variety of colors. Today, it's quite common to see the variety of colors and hairstyles. Unfortunately, with all the acceptable changes in color of hairstyles and colors, the most troublesome one becomes the African American hairstyles. African Americans are the only group of people that have been penalized in the workplace based on their hair. Often the issue of how a black person's hair looks becomes a smokescreen to justify not hiring them because of their color. The power becomes arbitrary in determining what is acceptable or not based on their personal prejudices. See, the definition of racism is power.
Sir, if I could ask you just to kind of wrap it up here quickly.
I'm at the end.
All right.
The definition of racism is power plus prejudice. The irony is this. The city council is dealing with simple logic as to why this Crown Act should pass. If you cannot understand the ramifications of not passing the Crown Act, then I must question the intellect capacity of the council members who vote against it. No law or policy can be based on arbitrary opinions. The only way to prove that the Crown Act is not based on individual arbitrary opinion is the city council must either vote unanimously for it or vote unanimously against it. It cannot be a split vote.
I'm going to have to cut you off there, but thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, sir. All righty. No one else has signed up to speak on this topic. Is there now a motion to resume the regular order of business?
I'll make that motion.
Any discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I believe the motion has been made and seconded to approve this ordinance. Are there any comments from members of council? Anyone? All right. Well, let me just say, this is an issue that even before it's been on our agenda here, as it was the last two council meetings, has been in the public discourse for the better part of the last year, receives, in my opinion, a disproportionate amount of attention from some opposed to it, because I think people think it's a lot more than what it really is. It's been pretty non-controversial for many years. Provisions on our ordinances that prohibit discrimination based on one's race. All this does, and if you look at the text of the amendments, which I drafted myself based on what other cities have done, is it includes in the definition of race the natural hair texture of any particular race, including certain hairstyles associated with a particular race. That's all it does. It doesn't create any. It's not the boogeyman that a lot of people portray it as, and I think quite frankly, when you look at the history of this country, when you look at the way hairstyles, particularly Caucasian hairstyles, have been, quote, normalized, and non-Caucasian hairstyles have been seen as somehow other. I think there's a lot of reason why an ordinance like this makes sense. Quite frankly, I wish we didn't have to have this conversation, because I wish our state would do the right thing on these issues. But the folks in the legislature, time and time again, seem to focus on a different direction of civil rights, and one that I don't always find agreeable. But I think this is something that is right for the city of Wheeling. I think it's going to make us more competitive, not less competitive. And I would urge every member of council to join me in voting yes. Any other comments? All right, the questions on the motion, please record your votes. Mr. Fum. He's hitting his yes button. Yes, all right. All right, the motion is approved by a vote of 6-0. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into negotiations and execute the appropriate documents to extend the services of CT Consultants for 12 months to continue providing flow monitoring, data management, equipment operations, and maintenance in accord with the city's Phase 2 status and Phase 3 wastewater system improvements.
I would move to adopt the ordinance.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All righty, please record your votes. Motion passes.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to expend funds in the amount of $25,094.49 with Dell Technologies of Round Rock, Texas, for police department mobile data terminals and drone PC to be charged to the city service fee and to be reimbursed by the fiscal year 2022 COPS Technologies Program, Wheeling Law Enforcement Technology Program.
Move for adoption of the ordinance. I'll second.
Any discussion? Please record your votes. Motion approved.
And that concludes unfinished business.
Thank you. Brings us to items held over. We have the Historic Landmarks Commission minutes from October 6th of 2022, Human Rights Commission minutes from December 6th of 2022, Hall of Fame minutes from December 13th of 2022, and the Center Market Commission minutes from December 6th of 2022. Is there a motion to accept those all as received?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. It brings us to remarks from members of council. I'll start to my left today, Mr. Thorngate.
Yes, sir. The next Ward 5 Ward meeting is going to be this Thursday, February 16th at 6 p.m. at the Alpha Tavern.
All righty, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask that city staff continue to work with the residents of North Park. Frontier and their contractors have been in North Park. I assume they're laying new cable lines, but there's been a lot of damage done to yards and personal property. So any assistance that city staff can provide to the residents of North Park would certainly be appreciated. Thank you.
All righty, Mr. Sklavonakis.
Nothing today, Mayor.
Ms. Ketchum.
Yes, thank you. Happy February and also happy Black History Month. There are a couple ways to celebrate Black history in the city of Wheeling that I'd like to share with you. First and foremost, has anybody ever been to Show of Hands? Raise your hand if you've been. It's my favorite crowdfunding event in the city of Wheeling. It's really exciting. And this show of hands will be focused on Black-owned businesses in the city of Wheeling. If you've been to Show of Hands before, you know how it works. You pay $5 to get in, and that allows you to vote for your favorite business idea. The next Show of Hands is tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the Artisan Center at River City, 1400 Main Street. So please attend. It's one of the best events, like I said, and I hope to see you there. Next, Black History is being celebrated all month long at the Ohio County Public Library. They do a series of lunch with books throughout the month. And it's really one of the most incredible events. I see Ron here, who's hosted one in the past that's been really great. I believe they will have more events. Feel free to go to their website to find out which ones you might want to attend. And then lastly, we are very lucky in the city of Wheeling to have both our regional president of the NAACP and the state president of the NAACP living here in the city of Wheeling. And there are monthly NAACP meetings that are held here in the city of Wheeling. I believe they are on Zoom and at West Virginia Northern. So if you're interested, please donate to the NAACP and attend those meetings. I haven't been to one for a little while, so I should attend myself. But those are really great opportunities to get involved. Lastly, I've done a series of office hours at the beginning of the year so that folks can have access to City Council more than twice a month. My next office hours will be rescheduled from Monday to this Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Upper Market House in Center Market. Feel free to stop by, ask any questions. Would love to see you there. That's all.
All right, thank you, Mr. Seiler.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things. I know we're going to be talking about our next demolition contract here, and I'm kind of a broken record on these demolition contracts. Just a couple things for feedback around those. There's been some complaints about the condition the properties have been left in after the demolition. Mr. Heron, I know you and I have spoke about that a couple times, but are we still on track to have the contractor come in and level those things out, regrade those, and make sure they're in good shape before those contracts are completed?
Yeah, yes, we are. We retain at the end of a contract 10% until all punch list items are completed. And I know that Mr. Stahl and Mr. Lanham went around with the contractor for the first contract last week, and there's a list of items that need to be cleaned up and finished.
Great, thanks. And on that topic, moving forward, some of the feedback I had was around pests and pest control. So when some of those abandoned houses were torn down, the rodents that were living in there kind of scattered outwards. Would it be possible to have the city do some pest control in there a couple of weeks before they're demolished to kind of make sure that doesn't happen to neighboring properties?
Yes, the contract that's under consideration this evening can be the first one to do that. Absolutely.
Great, thanks. And last thing, just heard a couple of folks mention some confusion on Main and Market Street, with all the work that's done on those streets over the last year and a half or so. Is there any way we could reach out to the state and get some lines painted, especially by 10th Street, kind of where we're the on-ramp to the interstate, on-ramp to the tunnels in North Wheeling and so forth? There's a lot of confusion there lately. If we can kind of coerce them to put some lines down for us, that would be very helpful. That's all I have. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, everyone. That brings us to report of committees. If we could ask everyone to please silence your phone, please. We have the Development Committee minutes from January 17th of 2023 and the Finance Committee minutes from January 17th of 2023. Is there a motion to accept those as received?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Brings us to report of the City Manager, Mr. Heron.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to report that today 56 doors were delivered to the police headquarters project, with 58 more scheduled for the end of this week. And that would indicate all the doors that are necessary to complete that project. So we're hopeful that by the end of this month, the police department will be able to move into the facility. A public open house or ribbon cutting may be delayed a little bit because there's some issues with ballistic glass in the lobby area, but the building should be able to be occupied here within the next 2 weeks. So we're excited about that. On the fire station project, 75% of the footers and foundations have been completed. That project obviously is below grade now, and hopefully will be coming out of the ground soon, but is still on schedule to be completed in December of 2023. Also, the parking structure project on Market Street is moving along nicely. It is on schedule for the most part. There's some issues with the generator that needs to be delivered and might be a little bit late based on supply chain issues. But I did want to alert council as well as the public that next week there will be a 600-yard pour at that facility, and that pour will take 20 hours to complete, and it has to be done all at the same time, or all continuously, I should say, not at the same time. It will begin at 4 a.m. in the morning. We don't believe it will disrupt anyone's sleep because all the work and all the trucks will arrive on Chaplin Street, but it is required because of the nature of the construction of the parking structure. It all has to be poured at the same time, and then cables are then put into the cement as they go. So that's going to be occurring next week. We'll find out the exact date tomorrow, but it more than likely will be Tuesday and Wednesday of next week from 4 a.m. to midnight the same day. And then also under original propositions, item number 3 is a regional economic development contribution from the tax increment financing bond issue that City Council approved back in November for the Stone Center. The Stone Center was the original tax increment financing project in the entire state of West Virginia, and the city has, in cooperation with RED, invested in that building throughout the past 20 years. This particular ordinance deals with installing solar panels on top of the building, and is part of the incentive to get Williams-Lee to renew their lease, but also to expand within the building. That was included in the TIF project plan. There was approximately $2 million worth of additional improvements to the building. This represents the first $240,000 of that. And then finally, I'm happy to report that City Clerk B.J. Delbert has been promoted to Building and Planning Supervisor. So she will no longer be the City Clerk. I'm looking forward to her becoming part of our administrative team on that end of the hallway. I think she'll do an excellent job. She's been working with staff, the Building Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, developers, our consultant for the past several months, and has impressed them to the point where, in discussing her interaction over the past several months, it's almost unanimous that she would be an excellent addition to that department, and now she'll lead that department into the future, and we appreciate that very much, and congratulations. The city clerk position is a council appointment. It has been advertised, and once those resumes come in, we will forward those to city council for their consideration. That's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for the city manager?
I have just 2 questions. Mr. City Manager, do we have an update on the Robrecht site project?
Yes, the design of that project is moving along to the point where we're going to be formulating a grant application with the Department of Transportation for construction of a park. Now, the remediation process will occur in between the design and the park construction. I don't have a design to discuss with City Council yet, but it is moving along to the point where there is a high likelihood of a competitive grant application being submitted to the West Virginia Department of Transportation for the actual construction of the park. And we already have funds available for remediation.
Great. And then just lastly, I wanted to flag for city admin that the Cane Club in South Wheeling, which is 36th and Jacob, has been in rough shape for quite some time. And I think currently I've been alerted by some residents that there is additional collapsing bricks from that building. And so I believe currently we've got some horses that are preventing, the sidewalk is closed there. But whatever we could do to expedite that demolition and resolution would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Any other questions for the city manager?
Mr. Herron, update on Gateway Park, and then Mr. Herron, do you roughly know how many jobs Williams-Lee has in the Stone Building, or will have after their newest expansion?
Yes, the projection on jobs is 600. When the pandemic hit, they were in the low 400 range. All of their employees have not yet return to work, but that is the plan, and as a result they are looking at an expansion to another floor within the building, so they'll ramp back up to 600 employees in over a period of time. As the leases develop, that number could increase even more. And what was the second? Okay. Yeah, Gateway Park, the first phase of Gateway Park is completed. We are in the voluntary remediation program for a portion of that property. The West Virginia DEP inspected it about 2 weeks ago. We haven't yet finalized the remediation plan on that, but that is forthcoming. Right now, the Department of Highways is using a portion of that property for a laydown area, which hopefully will be vacated here shortly so that we can begin the remediation process.
Mr. Seiler?
Mr. Heron, just two quick questions for you. Do you have any updates on the suspension bridge and any ideas which way they're swaying on allowing vehicular traffic? We're very much still hoping that they open that up for vehicles on the island. And then the second question is just if you have any updates on the Wheeling pit lofts.
The suspension bridge project it is my understanding in talking with DOH officials prior to the first of the year, was on schedule to be completed this summer. And local officials do not have an opinion yet or have not been told whether or not it will be open to vehicular traffic or not. I have not reached out to officials in Charleston. The Wheeling Pit Lofts project, I have been in constant communication with the developer, and as council knows, that is a tax increment financing project. There is an incentive available to the developer. He's aware of that. There are some time constraints with that incentive, and it's been represented that they still are on schedule to begin that project yet this winter or early spring.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All righty, thanks, sir. Brings us to report of other officers. We have Historic Landmarks Commission minutes from January 5th, 2023. Greater Wheeling Sports Entertainment Authority minutes from December 20th of 2022, and the financial statement for December of 2022. Is there a motion to hold those over?
I'll make a motion to hold this over.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is passed. Brings us to number 7, petitions of redress for grievance.
There are none.
Number 8, petitions of all their kinds.
There are none.
Number 9, original propositions.
An ordinance authorizing an agreement with Tipping Point to provide Clay School conceptual redevelopment plan and further authorizing the city manager to expend funds the amount of $27,100 to be charged to the general fund. An ordinance authorizing the city manager to expend funds the amount of $112,200 with Astor Oilfield Services of Blair for abatement and demolition to be charged to the ARPA. An ordinance authorizing the city manager to expend funds in the amount of $240,255 with Regional Economic Development of Wheeling for the Stone Center roof solar panels to be charged to the 2022 TIF bond. An ordinance of the Council of the City of Wheeling creating a no parking zone on Lane B from Nettle Avenue to Clifton Avenue for a distance of 180 feet. An ordinance of the Council of the City of Wheeling to establish a combat wounded parking zone at meters 1514 on Chaplin Street, 42 on 16th Street, and 23 on Water Street. A resolution of the Council of the City of Wheeling to authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents as required by the West Virginia SHPO office to complete necessary work for the Warwood Historical nomination and to provide the gap funding.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? Please record your votes. The resolution's approved.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Wheeling to authorize, direct, and empower the officers and administrators of the city to execute all necessary documents and procedures to provide for an outdoor dining grant for Wheeling National Heritage Area Corporation at 1400 Main Street in the amount of $20,000.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mayor, I just want to clarify. This is an additional $20,000 in addition to the $750,000 that we approved at the last meeting.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussions? Please record your votes. Motion's approved.
That concludes original propositions.
All right.